Coffee and Cream with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Tied at 1, bottom of the second. There's a fly ball to left field. Miguel Rojas with a power surge. He hadn't hit a home run in more than a year until a couple of weeks ago. Now he has hit his third, and the Dodgers take a 2-1 lead.
2-2 pitch hammered to left field, hit a ton and deep, and gone. Have a night, Matt McClain. A 2-run blast for McClain. It's his third RBI of the night, and the Reds are up 5-1.
The 1-2 pitch. Swung on, ground ball, hit to third. Espinal down to a knee. He's got it. The throw to first. Gets by. Here comes Castellanos. He'll come in and score. It'll be an error. And 2 are across, and the Phillies are in front, 5-4.
And the 1-2. Swinging a drive toward right center. Back goes Robert. Back near the stands. That ball is gone. A game-winning home run for Chris Morel. Can you believe it? Listen to this crowd. Cup Sox Series, you just never know. Morel with an opposite field 3-run bomb. Game winner.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. Coffee and Cream alongside Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. Gosh, it's good to be back. It's good to hear you guys again. Good to see you via StreamYard. You can comment on YouTube. We'll get your thoughts there. You can also give us a call, 888-638-4876. You know, DB, I woke up this morning and watched SportsCenter for the first time in a long time.
Yeah?
Yeah, I just turned it on. I'm like, I wonder what's going on in the world of in the worldwide leader in sports. I was, interested, so I clicked over, and all of a sudden, yeah, it's just you. Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows it's spring again. What caught your attention besides the fact
the Little League World Series?
Yeah, I'm kind of over it
already. So, I asked you yesterday if you were a fan.
I used to be, but it's just funny because kind of having one foot in the baseball community, I get pushback. Sometimes it's Legions versus prospects. Sometimes it's, these Little League guys, they're not even the best in their. I'm like, they're kids. Where's the birth certificates? This guy's 6'2", 220. He's 12. It's like, well, he's probably not 12.
Is that the Albert Pujols birth certificate? Because I want one of those.
Probably not 12. I don't know. It's just, it seems like such a little bandbox that they play.
Albert Pujols.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, I like it. I'm team kids, so knock yourself out. But I'm not like. I'm not like
the
all
stat lines for some of these kids.
No, I don't pay attention to stat lines.
Yesterday there were 2 no-hitters in the same day.
I saw the Czech Republic hit no hit.
Yep, and so that was by Panama, right? The pitcher for Panama,
Van Halen,
had 12 Ks and a grand slam in 4 innings.
Not bad.
Yeah. Well, if you're wondering, 12 Ks in 4 innings is every batter striking out.
Yeah.
and
again.
Then there was a pitcher for Rhode Island, a little lefty.
Rhode Island Red.
15 Ks in the game.
So you're like, you can watch it in the daytime too, but we're not going to be home in the day for a while.
No.
All the meetings and talks and more meetings.
Yeah,
and more meetings.
This was heavy meeting week.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah. It's what we do.
Hey, did you notice we met yesterday in the dark? I love it.
I was a huge fan.
Me too.
Well, and Sasha and I were talking because we were in the original conference room, and our conference room's a little bit smaller, especially for our team. It's too small.
Yeah.
So we were in there, and we flipped on the lights. She flips them right back off.
By the light.
That too. And she's just like, yeah, this messes with my eyes. Let's go up front.
Yeah, like I'm like all in.
You guys walked in. Everybody in this, I don't know, wannabe circle.
Yeah.
And you look down at me and you're like, who are these people?
Yeah, like what is going on?
That's how big the Hurrdat Sports team has gotten.
Yeah, there was like 3 people in there. I'm like, they're like, man, who's the random black guy? I was like, I don't know.
Hey, we gotta hit our diversity quota.
Yeah. Check. I don't even know. So I don't even really know all the entrances. Like I'm just figuring them out. But I do notice that Bill comes in almost the same door.
The back door.
Yeah, I'm gonna start parking back there.
You should. That's where I park.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. And you're a big back guy.
Yeah.
Did you park back there again today?
Yeah. No, I'm
Nope.
not this side,
Okay.
but I'm going back there tomorrow.
Hey, you're kind of like changing
Incognito.
things up.
I don't like to be
You really
seen.
like to be incognito. That is for darn sure.
Yeah, kind of just blending in. Everybody knows it's pretty. No, it's pretty cool. So it's like it is full fall. Like it's go time.
It's here.
It is officially.
And once
go time.
tomorrow hits, when we get on the air tomorrow morning, and you know that there's football at 7:00 at night.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped. I'm not even the one playing. It was kind of a debate. Liquid and I usually go through this every year. Because we've been doing the coach's corner since I can remember. And we always were like, okay, do we go defending champs or do we go ranked number one? Because some years they're not the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost felt like this year we should have opened with Coach Yonk or Coach Huffman because they play first. But I didn't want to buck. I didn't want to buck the system. So we'll open tomorrow with the number one ranked team in the state and go with Coach Lamanji to open it up.
Sounds like a familiar name.
Yeah, but you know what's funny? And I was going to mess with Coach Huffman. It seems like we talk to him in week 1 or week 2 every year.
Every year.
It's like they're either preseason number 1 or they're number 2. I mean, he's got a nice little string going.
Yeah.
So we'll
That's what happens when you're a good football coach.
We'll get to those in order. So I'm pretty excited.
Speaking of high school football, and I've been kind of all in on this story, and I'm sure you've been following along with it too. All the blindside drama with Michael Orr and the Toohey family.
Oh yeah. It's since that movie came out, if you just do research, like the lawsuit is relatively new to the public, but he has been unhappy. He's
been fighting for a while.
Forever.
Yeah, and it started because the movie didn't portray his story well.
Yeah.
At least in his eyes.
He
because,
was not happy.
Well, and that's Hollywood, though. You exaggerate to get viewers, and then, that's how you get money, and people talk about it because there's this bigger story than it actually was. Because if it actually went about his life, I'm sure it wouldn't have gotten the reaction it did, but because they made it so that it looked like he didn't know anything about football, he struggled on the academic side. He overcame both of those challenges to get the D1 scholarship.
Yeah.
He got adopted by a family. Like by throwing in all these added details, that's Hollywood, right? They exaggerate in order to make money. But I would argue probably 60% of the movie wasn't true.
Yeah.
He came out right away after the movie and said, no, that's not me. That's not me. I know football. I've been studying football my whole life. I've bounced around from family to family, which they got that right in the movie. But what they didn't get right is I actually knew about football too, because I bounced around from movie to movie or from place to place. And so I hear what he's arguing now, because this court case is interesting. Because if you look at it from the Toohey point of view and you look at it from the Orr point of view, they're arguing two different things. Like they couldn't be more off the page from one another. Like they are not on the same page. One side says he's been trying to do this forever, and that's the Toohey family. He's been trying to lawyer up. He's been trying to get money from us. He doesn't think we're splitting it equally.
Some people are calling it a shakedown.
Right. And Orr, on the other hand, is saying, hey, I kind of was misled in this process when I was young, because what I thought were adoption papers ended up being conservatorship papers, which only handed them, they were essentially financial advisors for him.
Yeah. So, and I think now, and I don't know if this is post airing of all the dirty laundry, but it sounds like they'll give up conservatorship.
Oh yeah.
In order just to not save face, but I think they're going to
settle.
I think they're going to defend their name.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, and it makes a lot of sense to have conservatorship papers with the background that Sean Toohey has, being a restaurant. I don't even know how to say it. Restaurateur. Thank you. And so, he manages money well. He manages business well. So that makes sense. But if he's not getting what he's supposed to be getting out of this agreement, then cutting ties is the move, because he he wants to eventually, at the end of the day, when a movie makes $300 million and you're the star of the story, you want to see a lick of that, right? You want a little bit.
It's just weird how this thing's been bubbling under the surface for so long. And now you get all like the mudslinging. But I don't know, man. I go back and forth because if I'm being 100% honest, I mean, I want good people to help out other good people. Like I just told you the story last night, right? And by the way, I was just telling Andrew the story of one of our players was absent from team meetings or our team dinner last night, and turns out he was at CHI getting an MRI, and there was a little cause for concern because we had just got him. We'd only had him a semester, and so the whole getting acclimated was interesting. So the funny story, I told him how ended up just going down to CHI to where he was getting imaging on 24th and Cummings, and got him dinner, and his little sister, she's 5, got a couple Happy Meals. Mom declined, which is fine, right? Just dropped him off at the emergency room. Do you know how I had the money to go grab dinner? I got a good buddy who he coaches youth football. Came on to some money right before practice. He's like, hey, luck of the trade. He's the guy that like wins shoes in like the arcade games and gas stations for like his kids. No, I'm dead serious. They've won like 2 pair of Jordans. Like he's that dude. So that's
incredible.
So he's at practice and he wants to see what's going on. He's watching our special teams and how to warm up. And like I go to shake his hand and he put some money in my hand. I was like, oh shoot, it must be my lucky day. Life is good to be blankety blank.
Friends with you.
So no,
I'm just kidding.
So I didn't have any pockets, so I gave it to our offensive line coach to hold. I said, hey, this guy over here, good dude, just gave me this. Just put it in your pocket, hold it for me. I don't want to lose it. And I was like, yes. Now some kiddos out here can eat tonight. I didn't even think anything of it. That's the money that we use. Cool. That's the money that we use to get
through Dodge.
Yeah, to get something to eat. So I called him. I was like, hey man, I'm appreciative. Like, paying it forward, but whatever.
Notice how one act of kindness.
Yeah, it was on a humbug. Like it was on a total humbug. But anyway, like the whole, like when I look at these, you always want like good. I don't care what you look like, right? If you're other centered and you want to help people out, cool, right? Like do that. Be a humanitarian. Here's the problem though. Sometimes, and unfortunately, when cultures collide and different ethnic groups, at some point, sometimes people like come of age, right? And they depending on what their sphere of influence is, there can be some peer pressure, right? Hypothetically, let's say Michael Orr's friends, like he starts to notice things on his own, right? He's maturing. He's 19, he's 20, he's 21. He's in the NFL. Like his mind is changing. And he's like, wait a minute. Were these people really being good to me or were they taking advantage of me? There's this thing called white knighting, right? Where, the others come in and they like save the day and I couldn't do for myself. So I had to get this help from, and sometimes people in your own peer groups kind of look at you sideways for that, right? Sometimes it's lack of maturity. Sometimes it can be jealousy. It can be birthed from lots of different things. But so often we see these storylines of folks not functioning with self-help. And sometimes you just need other people to help you out, right? Just to get by with a little help from my friends. But sometimes culturally there's pressure. So I'm sure, just imagine Michael Orr watching this movie and he sees the depiction and it's not accurate.
Yeah.
Right. here comes this lady to the neighborhood, and she talks reckless to his friend, and it's like he comes across like he doesn't know any better. He doesn't like his can't shop for shirts on his own, and I mean it was kind of this deal like he couldn't do anything.
Right.
And whether that's
and that's just more than shopping for shirts. It goes back to the school and the football and everything else.
Right. The tutors, and whether that's true or not, the perception is that he couldn't do for himself at all.
Well, and this movie was based off a book.
Right.
So how true was the book then? Right.
So
and how much did they pull from the book?
So I'm sure as he matures and gets older, like he stews on it.
Like, yeah, because if it doesn't have anything to do with your life, or it doesn't fully depict what you want it to look like.
They know how much accuracy and ad-libbing there was done for the sake of the movie. But we saw the same thing. Did you watch Showtime, like the Lakers documentary?
Yeah.
Right? See, at some point, Jerry West is watching that show, and he's like,
is this how it actually happened?
Hey, man, you can't portray me like that. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Is that how you guys view me? And, they had to come back and say, hey, listen, we took some liberties here. Like, we took some liberty. Like, it's cool. No, because I don't trust that people that are viewing this can think for themselves, and I don't want that out there. Right? So you get like these conflicts of interest all the time, man. And I don't know the backstory personally between the Tuohys and the Orrs.
Well, because every article or account you read is different.
Now you are talking, again, you know me really well now. And like you're talking to somebody that will help just about anybody all day, every day, right? Like
I know your dream.
I have a tough time of boundaries, right? So even me watching that movie, I was uncomfortable. I don't even I barely got through that movie the first time. And I'm just like,
Yet it's one of the most watched movies out there. One of the most watched
Michael, go block that guy. Just use your big butt. Like, I struggle with the premise of I'm only good at sports, so this is my vehicle. Now, and I acknowledge full well that sometimes that's a real thing, right? Like, the ends justifies the means. But I'm just telling you, there's a lot of athletes that struggle with what they are in terms of their sense of self-worth because they think their value is only wrapped up in one thing. And seldom is it the essence of who they are. It's just the byproduct of what they can do. So sometimes people really struggle, especially as you come of age.
Right.
We're seeing it play out firsthand in Lincoln with the wide receiver room. As folks come of age and there's this self-actualization and this sense of self-worth, whether it's distorted or not, how it manifests itself, you just never know. And sometimes people take a look in the mirror and they're like, you know what? There's more to me than just blank. And how they handle it comes out in lots of different ways. Some people will go dye their hair. Some people will go get a new car. Some people will, take a job that they've never had. Some people will quit a job that they've always had. Sometimes there just comes these moments where you're like, you know what? I'm tired of doing such and such and such and such for such and such. I'm going to be me now, finally. And what the byproduct of that is, you just never know.
Well, and what's funny to me too is how people are now calling for Sandra Bullock to give away, or have her Oscar award stripped from this movie.
I'm not into that.
Yeah, and I'm happy you said that because
I'm not about that life.
And
she played a role, man.
And so this is my thought process. She wins an award, okay? She wins an award for her job by doing it the right way. She read her lines, right? She acted in the movie, and she got an award because of it. Whether you like the story or you dislike the story or you think it was right or you think it was wrong, what does that have to do with Sandra Bullock winning an award?
Right.
Like, if she didn't take that job, they would have just found another actress to take that job.
Yeah.
The movie was still going to go on.
I'm not mad at Matthew McConaughey for his role in Amistad.
What are we talking about?
You know what I mean?
So, It just makes me laugh how people get mad about one thing and then just call for people's heads.
No, I'm with you. I'm not.
What are we doing? Be mad about the film if you're mad about the film, but don't be mad about the people in the film because they just did a job. They just played a role. And that's it. That's it. At the end of the day, that's all they did. Let's go to Jay on line 1 here, Shane, and talk about the movie, get his thoughts. Jay, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Well, so diving deep this morning, and it's a good thing, man. I saw this. You know what? Let me be honest with you. This is what made me even want to know a little bit more about the situation. I was watching on YouTube. I don't know if it's like the main show with, anyway, it was like the Husker show or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about it and they were like, well, does Michael Orr need money? And I was like, what? And I was like, so hold on, how is Michael Orr wrong? What do you do? So as I got in a little, another article popped up about it, and I listened to another radio personality, and then they gave some insight as to what is really the error in this situation. Like the fact that this kid was 18 when they signed a contract with him, just making them basically, and I'm using the wrong phrasing, I'm not a lawyer, that like they became his power of attorney, if you will,
mm-hmm.
and kind of had control over, what he did in his business transactions, to the point where he didn't even get paid for the story, supposedly.
Oh, allegedly.
Yeah, like supposedly he did not get his, or if he didn't get paid, he didn't get his fair cut.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they negotiated the entire contract of this situation for him because he was too young, right? And now that is what it is. That's bad business. And that's just not just, and that's not right.
Well, especially when they preach familial values, like if that's really what it was at the end of the day. Like, and we're really on the outside looking in here. We don't know the true story.
100%.
So like we're just kind of speculating at this point. But what's funny to me, Jay, is that this movie, like what seemed like the only accurate depiction of this movie was the fact that it was solely based really on the academic side of things and trying to get eligible so that you could play football. And then you come back to what is today with this contract and not understanding it. And you're having him sign some papers and then boom, here's where we are. I just thought that was kind of a little ironic that the movie preached academics, but he never really had any understanding. Like if Michael Orr's guilty of something right now, it's negligence. He just didn't know really what he was signing.
I don't know about negligence as much as I would say ignorance, right?
That could be a better word.
Because he's operating. He's operating in the unknown.
Right.
Yeah,
that could be a better thing.
Yeah, that's more ignorance.
And two, if somebody, right, if you grow up in a different culture, right, I ain't gonna get all even that, but like you grow up in a different situation. Then somebody shows you something completely different that you've seen depicted on the big screen 1,000 times. Like in the movie, it made it seem as if this guy went from, a bad situation to a great situation. You know what I mean? And in that process, they could have told him anything and he would have believed it, to be honest. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Who knows?
Well,
Go ahead.
I was just going to. No, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for the call. The good news is, at least with money, DB, there's normally a paper trail.
Yeah.
So this could probably be tracked to if he got his pay or if he didn't, or if they're holding out on him and they owe him money, and that can also take care of itself too. That will probably get uncovered as we continue with this story. Jesse, stay there. We'll get to you when we come out of the break. More coffee and cream next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
All right, welcome back, Coffee and Cream, alongside Damon Benning and Drew Rogers. Shane Schillerberg in the house. We are live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at the bar, soon to be representing Hurrdat Sports, because we are Hurrdat Sports Radio now here on Coffee and Cream. It does. And add grill to it. Now that it's Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, this is interesting because we have a DB burger, right? We have the Benning burger, which is, it's got the egg on it, right? The jalapenos. I love pepper jack. So, with all the new faces that we have on our team, is everybody getting a menu item because it's Hurrdat Sports now?
Out of my office yesterday in case you didn't.
Yeah, that was funny.
I'm like, no.
I'm cool with it. You guys.
Yeah, so we're polar opposites, right? They're like, hey, do you want to share your office? No.
And I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, I'll do whatever. No, I don't want to share. If that means that I need to be there whenever, sure, I will. I don't like people living in my own house. Let alone share an office. Like, are you crazy?
Oh, you shot that down so fast,
dude. I didn't even have to I barely let her finish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, can we play music, Shane?
Dude, you think it was like
rocket science?
Man,
why are you needling?
Pardon?
Huh? Noodling?
Yeah, noodling.
So I had a former boss that used that term, and I had to Google it.
Noodling?
I've been noodling some ideas. Well, noodle this, he would say, and I'm like,
yeah, who says that in a sentence?
Why are you doing that?
Joel, no.
Hey, not gonna say that. I miss Joel. I need to
bring him back, Shane.
I need to talk to him just to laugh a little bit. He was not afraid. He was not afraid to pause and be like, "Man, that's a good question." That's funny.
Yeah, well, and it's funny too because Joel and we gave him a little grief for basically waking up to our phone call.
Yeah, hello.
I think in a lot of cases, yeah.
He'd be like,
"What's going on?"
I was up till 2. I was watching the Warriors,
Memphis,
watching the Lakers,
Memphis and the Thunder. Like, are you a junkie?
Stop laughing.
Yeah. I'm not gonna let you do that to me.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna let you do that.
Hey, stop laughing, man.
Stop laughing.
Shane, let's go to line 2 and talk to Jesse. Jesse, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, guys. Hey, it's twice in 1 week. So
Jesse, I'm not gonna cut fresh flowers for you. What's up, buddy?
What I miss?
Hey, I don't
Shane,
wanna
who's
have to tell you guys
Steely Dan, Carly Dan, somebody.
Go ahead, Jesse. Sorry.
No. I don't want to have to tell you again, but you got to do something about that on hold music.
I don't want to have to tell you again. Hey, Jesse, it's kind of passive aggressive on a Thursday.
You have to understand, we can't play music.
Listen, I don't want to have to tell you again.
We talked about the stress of driving down Center Street, and I'm telling you, between that music and the traffic, I'm gonna put my car through again.
Hey, quietly though, good call for Gandolfo's. They don't pay me enough, but man, their breakfast is off the hook.
Yeah, somebody told me that they're the best sandwich place in town.
They are legit.
Oh, it's not even close.
They are legit.
But hey, man, so you're talking about this Michael Orr story and all that, and you got talking about the blind side. I just want to say, and maybe I'm just like, I don't know, man speaking or mansplaining to some people, but like I knew about the story before the movie came out. And I'm kind of with you, Damon. There were some things that bothered me because I did know about the story. Like, first off, he was a known commodity. Like, he wasn't a guy. He wasn't some dumb kid who just stumbled into a private school. And does everybody understand who that coach was at that school? Like, that was Hugh Freeze.
Yeah. And it's like I just said off air. He goes, "Is what because Andrew's trying to pick my brain about what was really pissing me off." And I go, "Well, let's just start with how they were coaching it." Right. Like they made it seem like like he couldn't string 2 sentences together.
Right.
Oh, just block that guy. And I was like, nobody coaches like that.
Yeah, Jesse, I told him, I said, can you imagine me, not a football coach, not a football player, like ever in my day, walking out on West Side's football field and going, DB, I got this. Like, let me coach this guy up real fast.
I was like, it was a struggle to get. I saw Blindside, Jesse, 2 years later than when it came out.
Oh, yeah.
But that's what movies and TV are, though, to entertain, right?
Dude, the exploitation was driving me bonkers.
Yeah. Well, one other thing, you did mention the Lakers. And so this is the other end of the spectrum, that the Showtime show. Not show, It's called Winning Time.
Yep.
Right? So I love that show. I'm in season 2. We're watching it. And I followed the controversy. And then I saw, Magic's upset, Jerry's upset. And so they do their own Hulu documentary. Did you watch that?
I haven't seen it yet because I don't have Hulu, but I knew there was a clapback.
Okay. So spoiler alert, I go and watch the clapback, and I'm waiting for all these different takes.
And there
It's
wasn't.
the exact same story.
Yeah.
And the funniest part about the whole deal was Jerry West was all upset because he was portrayed as an angry old man. So he comes out as an angry old man to be upset. Like, dude.
That is kind of like what's going around in our circle is that like the quote was he didn't do himself any favors.
No, absolutely not. And how is Magic gonna sit here and be like, I was portrayed wrong when like, come on, dude. Like,
Yeah, it's because he signed with Converse.
You know what's funny? I wake up about twice a week, Jesse, and I'm like, Magic Johnson is one of those people that, as I'm 40, whatever I am, 8 or 9, does not fit my current day personality, but he's always been one of my favorites of favorites. So I just hang in there with him. He drives me up the wall, but I still love him.
For sure. You know, the biggest credit I can say about that show is I am a lifelong diehard Celtics fan, and I watched that show, and you're rooting for the Lakers. It's weird. Like, I love how they portray Bird, and he pops up and like in the corner of the room when Magic's just sitting there talking to himself. That's some of the best stuff. Some of the best scenes are Larry Bird just talking mad trash to Magic, and Magic's alone. It's the greatest. But anyway,
Jesse, I appreciate it.
We appreciate the call, man.
Who tweeted at us? Was it yesterday or the day before when they were like, Jesse putting us on hold to get his order was so on brand?
That would have been the day before because I was not here for that, and I wish I was.
He's like, hey, hold on, man. I got to get my order. He's like, hey, thank you. They're like, oh, please come again.
I remember when we first started the show, we had a listener that was ordering coffee through the drive-thru.
Dude,
that's what our family does.
And wait a minute, Shane, wasn't he at Panera?
He could have been.
I think.
I mean, that's ironic.
And what did we have yesterday?
Panera, St. Louis Bread Company.
I think I got Panera.
Mm-hmm. That's what it was, St. Louis Bread Co.
I don't understand. Is there a joke in there?
So it started as St. Louis Bread Company, and then because the national view of the place was Panera, then in St. Louis, it's kind of like Cardinal baseball, right? When you make fun of Cardinal baseball, Cardinal fans get mad, right? And we're the best fans of baseball. Like, no, it's us. Like, you guys aren't. It's us. No, that's the same thing with the Panera St. Louis Bread Company thing.
I know.
It was like I'm gonna strike for St. Louis Bread Company, and that's what it's going to remain. Long story short, it's Panera.
I scrolled through that menu for like 4 minutes. First of all, I had to pull over.
Did you find what you
liked? You know what I said? Or you ever do this where you feel like you're under the gun, so you get something that you?
Oh yeah,
that's
all the time.
That's why I study menus so long. Like it typically takes us. You know,
that's why you have your own menu items so that you know when you come in.
8 hours to like decide what to eat. And I settled on something I would almost 100% of the time never order. A turkey sandwich, cheddar cheese, tomato on an Asiago bagel. That's all I got.
Was it good?
It was okay. I tore the middle out because I've been eating a certain way. The Asiago is fire, right? But my turkey, I mean, no disrespect to, I felt like it was in a circle. So, I mean, prepackaged, right? Like, I don't know.
Not for you.
I landed the plane on the sandwiches, like they're elevated, obviously. Sometimes you just want like a regular sandwich. And turkey is my least, it's probably in the bottom third of lunch meats I would buy.
It's one of the healthier ones for you, though.
Right. That's what I did. I went by calories, and it was only 590 calories.
Yeah. See,
My tomatoes were fire. They sliced them thin.
I got this smokehouse buffalo chicken, and it was so good.
Was it?
But it was huge, monstrous. It was half a baguette.
Okay, Shane. Are you complaining about getting too much free food?
No. I was like, I can't eat it all. I saved it for
later. I can't eat. I don't like warm sandwiches, so I'm out on that.
Heard you on that, Andrew.
And what'd you do? Do you have leftovers this morning for breakfast?
I will.
He has
today.
leftovers for dinner.
Today when I get home.
Dude, he's $1.12. Think about that.
That's not true.
It is true.
It's $1.11.
Mean, I am 6% body fat.
Jeez.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Heyo, we're back. Coffee and Cream. DB, Andrew Rogers, happy to have you with us here on ESPN Radio 590 here in town. We'll be on in Lincoln starting at 9 o'clock. That's KFOR. Live on YouTube, the Hurrdat Sports YouTube page, and you can give us a call, 888-638-4876. You can also leave us your thoughts in the comments section on YouTube. We will see those. We will get to those, and we will comment back. We have Mitch Sherman coming your way at 8 o'clock today. We have at 8:45 Brian Edwards. A little bit of sports betting. Good fight this weekend with Aljamain and Sugar Sean. That's this weekend, right?
Yeah, Sterling.
Yep. And at 9:45, we'll talk to Michael Bruns. We'll also do the sports six-pack at some point later on in the show. So stay involved. Ask us a question. We'll get to that later on in the six-pack. So we're in the meeting yesterday, and I'm scrolling through Twitter once the meeting's over, and I see a video, a clip of Ryan Clark and Dan Orlovsky, Adam Schefter. What was that? That's not First Take, right? Was that still First Take?
I don't know like the names of the shows anymore. I kind of just watch it for the people.
Regardless, and I thought
I know that's novel, but like some people think it's all about a name. It's really not. It's
about people.
It is. Like, I don't know why that's so hard for folks to wrap their mind around, but like, come on, man. But anyway, yeah, I like Ryan Clark, so
same.
But I don't know.
I'm a huge Ryan Clark.
I don't know the names of the shows though.
So anyway, he's given a take about George Pickens versus Justin Jefferson, and Shane's got the audio. Shane, can you play it for the audience?
Comparing him to a Georgia guy, George Pickens is much more talented than Justin Jefferson.
Really?
Justin Jefferson understands everything about playing the position, stems, leverage. He can catch the football and all kinds of
savant
position. He's a savant. But here's the other thing. The Coach Tomlin told me something that I thought was great. He said they didn't even work to tolerate him, and they certainly didn't try to raise him at Georgia, which is mean they didn't embrace
the Steelers.
Yeah, no.
Like, wait, what?
They didn't embrace who George Pickens is. When you got 5 stars everywhere, it doesn't matter. When you're going to run the ball for 250 yards a game, it doesn't matter. But now at Pittsburgh and talking to Ike Taylor about the way that the entire team loves his attitude, loves the way he approaches his job. That's what the Pittsburgh Steelers have done for him.
And what happens if he becomes as good of a player as a Stephon Diggs, as an AJ?
He can be.
But Shefty, that's my point then, is then all of a sudden Kenny Pickett gets put into a conversation that we're having going, oh, wow, now they're one of the best ones. And all these 1-2 duos that we have, they're all really good teams.
Also, think about this, though. Think about this team. I'm sorry.
No.
Like this team, Najee Harris, when you see him in camp, looks like a different man than he did last year.
Can play.
Okay. So that was a lot in one. They turned that into more of like a Steelers take after the George Pickens hot take. But, DB, I know you're a Steelers guy. I'm going to knock RC here for a hot sec. I think the take was bad. That's a clickbait take. You're looking to stir up an audience here by saying George Pickens is much more, like those are the words I want to hone in on here. Much more talented than Justin Jefferson. That's saying like light years more talented.
No, you give it that value.
Much more is a value of light year. Like you're saying much more talented. If I'm much more talented than you in, I don't know, pickleball. Yeah, that's a great one because Matt Rule is much more talented than all of us in pickleball.
Except Robbie.
If I say that, then that means you practically suck because I'm like okay at pickleball, right? So I'm saying like I'm light years ahead of you because you haven't even picked up a pickleball stick before. The way that, you use that term, much more, is what struck me first. Now, I'll give RC a little bit of credit here because he didn't say productive. He didn't say much more productive. He said much more talented. And if he were to say productive, then there's facts to prove that that's incorrect. But when you say talent, it's a little more vague, right? You can get away with that a little bit more. But why are we arguing talent? Because talent should never be the thing that we're talking about. Productivity is the only thing that matters. So why are you bringing that up? Because you want to make sure, you want people to realize like, hey, I made this take. I want interaction now. And now it becomes this clickbait thing in my mind. Talent doesn't matter. Productivity is what matters. So if we're going to get somewhere, like Justin Jefferson can make one-handed catches too in practice. Like that's what we see from George Pickens right now. And don't get me wrong,
in practice, he had
George Pickens was fantastic in the season
the best
too.
Catch. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he was fantastic too. But Justin Jefferson had the one between 3 Bills defenders to extend a drive too, which was insane last year. So both guys can make one-handed catches.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we're splitting hairs with the catch, but I said it real time because I think you and I talked about this, and I love Jefferson's catch. Pickens' couple of catches I felt like were much more difficult. This isn't for me. This is easy. It's not even a Steelers versus whatever thing. It's the fact that I think I take Ryan Clark at face value for what he said. and I don't know if I would argue with Ryan Clark. He didn't even bring up the word production.
Right.
He didn't talk about stats.
Mhm.
He said more talented.
And that's how you get away with it.
I believe that to be true. I think George Pickens is more talented than Justin Jefferson.
But wouldn't talent in turn lead to production?
No. Like, they're not even remotely the same thing, because production at the wide receiver spot, there's a lot that goes into that. You may need a Josh Allen on the other side. You may need a Kirk Cousins on the other side. Pickens
there should be some carryover, though.
Pickens has been in the league 1 year.
Right.
And he played with 3.5 quarterbacks, and one of them was Trubisky. Like, I don't.
And Jefferson's playing with Cousins.
He's top 10 in the league.
I hate Kirk Cousins.
That's a you problem.
Kirk Cousins sucks.
That's a lie. Number one, it's your opinion. Number two, sucks. You're telling me you can tell me with a straight face Kirk Cousins sucks.
I can.
Okay.
I play fantasy football.
We can't have this conversation because you can't rationalize with irrational people. That is irrational. At its core of whatever, that is irrational. That arguably is one of the silliest things that you've ever said. Kirk Cousins.
I've said it before.
That's fine. Like, I totally get it, right? So that sentiment is why I have such a strong disdain for fantasy football fans that don't actually like the game. There's a difference for you to be able to
don't put words now that I don't like the game.
Listen, well, I'm gonna question whether you know it or not if you're gonna tell me Kirk Cousins sucks. that right there is going to have me question how much you really pay attention to football.
One thing.
So let me get this right. You can say sucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to pick at RC and give.
Oh, that was good. Pick it.
You're going to pick at RC's statement of much more and give that a value.
Well, because somebody gives me a value of mine.
You're doing the exact same thing, right?
A little bit, yeah. Sure.
Okay,
yeah.
so it's.
I'll agree with that.
On the surface, it seems a little hypocritical.
Mm-hmm.
Pickens is bigger.
He is bigger.
As fast or faster.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because he was a 4-star and Jefferson was a 3.
He's actually a 5. And Jefferson
was he a 5? Did he get moved to a 5?
And Jefferson was a 2-star. That's
okay.
2-star coming out of high school.
Well, there you go.
So the talent thing
that's true.
Isn't
high school.
Yeah, talent is talent. But I got to go back to, does the talent equal productivity? Harold Miner was extremely talented. Great basketball player. Baby Jordan wasn't super productive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Achilles Smith was extremely talented, wasn't super productive. Ryan Leaf was extremely talented, wasn't very productive. They're in no way, shape, or form the same thing. So productivity, especially at the wide receiver spot, I got to get by with a little help from my friends.
Do you want to go to Austin? He might be able to help you.
I'm still tripping off the fact this man looked at me with a deadpan straight face and told me Kirk Cousins sucks.
At the end of the day here,
I don't have any problems. I don't have any problems with RC saying Pickens is more talented.
Yeah, so
because he didn't bring up productivity.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Jefferson is a monster. You're talking about 2K, right? Like, Justin Jefferson is a monster.
But Justin Jefferson can do everything George Pickens does.
Listen.
So that's why I don't really fall into the more talented thing at all, because they can both do the same things.
Talent is exactly the word it said. That talent is God-given ability.
I'm with you.
One has more than the other. Now, to the varying degrees.
So you put George Pickens on the Vikings, he does what? More than what Justin Jefferson does because he's more talented?
He would be more productive in year one than he would be in Pittsburgh.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
I'm with you there.
So for me to give that
but is he better than Justin Jefferson?
I don't know. But he didn't say he was better. He didn't say he was a better player. He said he was more talented.
Right, but talent at the end. What do you remember? You remember the
No.
The productive players.
I don't though. I don't because
but that's what gets remembered.
But that wasn't the discussion. That wasn't the discussion. It wasn't long-lasting impressions in the sport.
Mm-hmm.
He said he was more talented. Like I just
don't agree with that.
That's okay. It doesn't make it ludicrous because the numbers and the physical gifts that come with the position
I can agree with that.
Would support Ryan Clark.
I can agree with that part.
Now, the productivity, hey, man, you win. Justin Jefferson is a monster, and I take him every day that ends in one.
All right, we're going to have to tell Austin to call back here, Shane, because we're talking to Mitch Sherman next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Yeah, I don't know many teams that have the setup we have. I mean, we go to practice in the afternoon, and thanks to Campus Rec, they've been great to us. We're able to have, we use both indoors for walkthrough, offenses in one, defenses in another, then we come together. Like, no one has that. So not many people have that. Maybe someone else does. But adding that turf space has been great. I like to let turf settle. I like to let it rain a couple times on it. So mainly we're using it for individual drills and for the injured guys as they're in the pit over there, maintaining their fitness. But I think it's going to be a great space for us, and I'm grateful that it's been put in.
All right, welcome back, Coffee and Cream. DB, Andrew Rogers, happy to have you with us. Happy to see everybody interacting. I know I probably sparked a few thoughts.
I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. I'm trying to figure out what.
Man,
I'm
taking personal shots at me, DB, for my football
Oh,
knowledge.
Lord.
It hurting the heart over here.
No, don't be that guy. You got to stand by what
Only
you say.
kidding.
It ain't personal.
Only kidding.
It ain't personal.
Only kidding.
You said the man sucks. I think that's going to get me to question aptitude.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that any other way.
Sure. Yeah. There's got to be some understanding, too, to everybody else out there that for somebody that has played fantasy football for like 12 years, right? Yeah. When you look at somebody of Kirk Cousins' value, that's where it gets me to say what I say, right? Now, if I actually look back at the stats, right? If I look at him throwing 4,000 yards, as DB pointed out, and having consistent 4,000-yard seasons, that is probably one of what some would say one of the worst takes out there, right? But when I look at somebody that gives me 15 consistent fantasy points versus, the 17 or 18 I may need weekly, that's where, in turn, it leads me to say that he is not a quarterback that I want on my fantasy team.
No, I understand.
So, yes, my judgment is skewed sometimes because of my fantasy football.
I just think talent is grossly different from productivity. If everybody optimized and maximized their talent, we'd be having much different shows all the time. Like, sometimes talent doesn't blossom in the way that it should. It could have a lot of contributing factors. I know in the comment sections, people are trying to discern between talent and athletic. That's not the same thing either. Athleticism is not the same in my opinion as talent. Now, maybe it's varying degrees, but I can be pretty athletic. I can be able to do backflips. I can be able to do front handsprings, and I may not be very talented. I think there's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan Piper is extremely athletic. Nobody's ever called
so Ken asks. That's a great word. Ken asks, would you rather say athletic over talent?
I prefer talent. I prefer talent.
Is talent why we have these conversations, though? If they were to say athletic, would it be different? I don't know. Probably not.
Again, if I'm 280 pounds and I can do a backflip, I'm athletic. That doesn't necessarily make you talented. If you're talented, you probably already are athletic.
Yeah, and Professor says a good point here. Everybody says Tom Brady's the GOAT, or at least a lot of people. How athletic is he? No, he's talented, but how athletic is he? It's a good point.
That's why me and Adam get along.
All right, let's go to Mitch Sherman now because he's with us. let's bring in Mitch. Mitch, welcome. Thanks for taking the time. Good morning.
Hey, good to talk to you guys.
Mitch, I don't know. I'm going to kind of go away from what we were just talking about.
Oh, yeah, it's not relevant. Let's move on.
Let's get into some Nebraska talk here because, I've been going back and forth in my mind this week about how to feel about the good and the bad we can expect this year. I feel like I'm speaking with the angel on my shoulder today as I think about the 3-3-5, at least defensively. Can this defense, Mitch, disturb Minnesota enough in week one to potentially make up for slow offensive play? And I ask this question because all fall we've been hearing how the defense is ahead of the offense.
Well, I think that's going to have a lot to do with Minnesota's execution and what their plan is and how they go about attacking Nebraska. I think the 3-3-5, and we'll see. I think it can be really effective against offenses that take chances. Going to have some issues perhaps if Minnesota is able to come out and be pretty basic in what it wants to do offensively and can run the ball and move the chains, and it's just content to eat the clock. If they don't have to take risks, if they're not behind the sticks and in a 3rd and 9 situation, then I think you take away what's maybe the greatest asset of the 3-3-5. When you get teams off balance and you can create chaos and big plays, that's when the real advantage comes in. But Nebraska has to be able to get like a negative play, a rush that gets no yards when Minnesota is playing it conservative. If we come out, if that game begins and the first couple times Minnesota has the ball, it's 1st and 10, 2nd and 6, 3rd and 2, and we see that repeatedly. I think even if they're not scoring, then that doesn't necessarily bode well for Nebraska down the road in this game.
Mitch, were you surprised? Because I know the answer was specific to Malachi Coleman, but I think he made it generally about the wide receiver spot. Then it morphed into freshmen playing. He's clearly bucking the trend of what we think and how we assess college football now, right? Like, guys recruit at a high level. They play young guys early. That's what keeps folks in the program. But he's saying to the contrary, hey, listen, it's there to supplement, not supplant. If they can play when they can play, but it's a big boy league, we want to play with grown-ups. It seems almost contrary to what anybody else in college football is at least saying out loud, whether it's they're afraid to chase away freshmen that aren't playing and they're going to hit the portal or what. But he's letting you know the blueprint for how he thinks we're going to win, and you can take it or leave it as a young guy.
Yeah, I think especially in this game. I mean, if Nebraska was starting off with Louisiana Tech and Northern Illinois, then I think they'd be more open to playing freshmen right off the bat. And he still wants to play freshmen. I think a couple years in with Rule, you're going to see that he's got a propensity. We're going to find out to play freshmen probably more than anything that we've seen at Nebraska. I mean, that is college football today. They come in more ready. They've been through all the different training that allows them to be ready. And you have the impatient factor with the transfer portal and NIL. Guys want to make money. To make money, they've got to have a name. So I do think that freshmen are going to play a lot under Matt Rule. He's really talking about week 1 here when he came up with that answer on Tuesday. And I also think that answer on Tuesday, and this just goes back to something that I've observed about Matt Rule from day one at Nebraska, is that he's very aware of the narratives that are popular in the Nebraska football atmosphere. And for the last few days, and really he started this last Saturday when he talked about freshmen filling in and needing to step up after the departure of Xavier Betts. So I think he felt by Tuesday that had started to take on a life of its own. And all of a sudden the expectation from people was, you're going to have to play Malachi Coleman. You're going to have to play Jaden Doss. You're going to have to play Jalen Lloyd. And it's like, well, wait a second. I mean, how many receivers are you really going to play? How many guys do they need to play? I think they're going to be like either 2 back or 2 tight end more than half the time, which means you need 2 receivers on the field. I mean, they've got Billy Kemp. They've got Isaiah Garcia-Castaneda. They should have Marcus Washington back, I would think, in time to play in this game. And then you've got Hahn and you've got Bullock and you've got Fleeks. I mean, I think he's just kind of speaking some truth and trying to rein the conversation back in where it needs to be, that they may not need and probably won't need a ton of contributions from the freshmen right off the bat in week 1. Week 2 at Colorado, that may be a different story.
Now, Mitch, you mentioned freshmen. In your mind, what freshmen will step up right away? And 2, are you thinking about that more from a position group point of view? Like, so if you are, what position group will see an influx of freshmen making an impact? Or is that more of like a special teams take and you're like, oh, we'll see them on special teams?
That'd be first. Special teams would be first. I do think you'll see freshmen on special teams. Yeah. I mean, because they can, there's not as much to I don't want to downplay special teams, but there's just not as much to learn. I mean, you can run down on kickoffs, and I think you can get that, you can figure that out more easily than you can how to play, say, a linebacker. So you'll see freshmen right away on all the special teams, I think. And then I looked at the guys who did well in the spring. We haven't heard a lot about Prince Will and Cam Lenhart this fall, and I think that's by design. I think they went into this fall at all positions with trying to make a real effort not to talk about the freshmen too much in public, just so that there wasn't an unrealistic expectation that was created. And you notice they did that in the spring too. They didn't talk about those defensive linemen a lot until 60,000 people saw those guys making plays in the spring game. And then they had to answer questions about it. And it became this conversation like, oh, they're both going to start. And that was probably an overreaction. I think they're both going to play, both of those two defensive linemen up front. And I think Maverick Noonan would have had a chance to do the same thing at the jack position, although that's pretty deep with older players if he hadn't gotten hurt. So defensive line, there's going to be contributions. I think those guys both have the possibility of playing more than 4 games and bypassing a redshirt year. Eric Fields at Rover, yeah, maybe. He's going to be a special teams guy. Ethan Nation in the secondary, maybe. Another guy who's going to be on special teams. I think he could be the kickoff return specialist week 1. On the offensive side, receiver. There's gonna be some contributions there at some point. Not sure, from the group that I mentioned, Coleman, Doss, Lloyd. So that's that's where I'm going. I don't know. Gunnar Gatula is gonna play some, but I think they're hopeful that they can keep him to 4 games.
Mitch, let me ask you something. In this full disclosure, I may be just hearing what I want to hear, but Coach Rule seems to be a big preventative measures guy. And even philosophically, right? Like, I think he wants the family atmosphere and to recruit guys that want to be there. And he wants the new facilities to look a certain way to promote this family environment, right? Like to combat potentially guys wanting to leave. All-inclusive NIL to combat guys wanting to leave. Taking the pressure off of freshmen with saying what he said the other day to put unrealistic expectations on them to keep them in the fray. How much of that do you think is part of the master plan to say, hey, listen, this is the place that you need to be because we'll think and care about you differently than a lot of other places in the country. And that's the trump card. That's the ultimate trump card that he's trying to play.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing there, that's like the thread that goes throughout all of what you just mentioned, is that he thinks it all through. There's not really anything that he says or in public or in front of the team or any kind of action that he takes, strategy that he devises, even down to the staff on the administrative side and the coaching side below him, that he doesn't have his hands in. He talked about this last week, I believe, when a question was asked about the YouTube series that Nebraska is producing this month, behind the scenes, the look in inside training camp, and his comment was, you guys know that I have to sign off on everything, and his point was that they're giving Jordan Litton, the student who is producing these videos, the freedom to go wherever he wants, and Rule trusts him. But leading into that, Rule said, I've got to know everything that's going on. So it's just really strategic the way that he goes about all of that, and everything in his program. So I think that's why you see some of that stuff that you mentioned, Damon.
You know what's interesting about you just saying that is even in the summer when we did the sit down, it was super long. and we got it whittled down. It's gosh. So when I said, hey, no worries, like we'll run it by you before any sort of production. And he looked at me, Mitch, and he said, well, that's not necessary. I trust you. I'll know if I say something stupid. And he has even I don't know what we're going to talk about. He has no idea what we're going to talk about. But that was the very first thing he said. Well, he said, don't worry about it. I'll know if I say something stupid. I'll be fine. I felt like, because just listening to you just say that, it's like even in that, he has supreme confidence in the fact that he's either such a quick blinker, quick process, whatever, that he doesn't say anything willy-nilly, right? Like I find that just listening to you say that, I find I'm even kind of more blown away because he's very, very consistent, and it doubles down on what you just said.
Yeah, there have been very few things that he's said in a press conference or an interview setting, and he's done so much media since he's been here. The local stuff, and then all the national things, and people who've come in, and so there's been very, very few things that I've heard him say where I've thought, I wonder if he would have liked to have said that a little bit different. It's one or two. In all of 9 months, which is really pretty shocking because most coaches, even those coaches who are trained really well in how to communicate, something's going to come up, every 10 minutes or so when you're put on the spot and you're asked questions that you're not sure you were going to get asked. You're going to have a little bit of a slip of the tongue. I'm not saying it's going to be some big PR disaster, but something where, if I could have thought about that for 10 minutes before I answered your question, I would have done it a lot different. And he doesn't fall in that trap. So it's just, some of it's just natural for him because he's a good speaker and he grew up in a situation where, he's the son of a pastor. So he's watched it his whole life, someone who had to think on their feet, and he's just good at it. And then also it comes down to the preparedness and the preparation. He spends a lot of time thinking about how he's going to answer this question, or it's just a matter of thinking things through in his mind as he goes about his job on a daily basis. So he doesn't even really have to think about how he's going to answer the question. He knows because he's been in that mindset 24/7 since he took over.
Now, Mitch, you mentioned the word trust just a couple of answers back, and how he trusts the staff, how he trusts, even more than his staff in regards to talking about, the videographer and the little docuseries that they have going. How much trust do you think Coach Rule had right away in Coach Martin, and knowing that the Huskers could make the best of a tough situation by promoting him to the role he's in, because he's kind of been in that territory before and he's so versatile?
Mm-hmm. Well, he was in Rule found himself in a good spot again because of his own, preparedness and thinking ahead, to have Josh Martin on his staff when unexpectedly you're looking for a tight ends coach days before preseason camp begins. And it's not just like a coincidence or luck of the draw that Josh Martin fell into his lap in that situation. And it's not just like luck of the draw that he ended up on the staff last winter. The seeds for that, and not just that, but for like just about every position that's on his staff, there's a story behind it, and there's a reason why that person is in that position. And with Josh Martin, Rule met Josh Martin's dad, Joe, who's a longtime high school football coach in Texas, like day one or day two, when he got on the ground as the Baylor coach back in 2017, late 2016, early 2017. Joe Martin was part of the delegation from the Texas High School Football Coaches Association who came into Waco and, were unhappy that Matt Rule had been picked over some Texas guy. I think they wanted Sonny Dykes, who probably would have been a good hire looking back at it, but Matt Rule turned out to be a good hire too. He came stomping into the facility in Waco. Who is this guy from the East Coast? And Rule in like an hour won them over. So he met Joe then, that led him down the road to meet Josh, to follow Josh's career. And, Josh ends up, after coaching in the FBS for the better part of a decade, in the high school ranks last year. And here's Rule coming out of the NFL trying to put together a staff, and there's Josh Martin. So it's not like just a total coincidence that he was even there in Lincoln in the first place. It goes way back. And that's why it fell into place the way that it did at the end of July or the first part of August this month. So yeah, he trusts him. He trusts him because he knows him, because he's followed him for a long time, because he knows the kind of coaching pedigree that Josh comes from. And I think you'll continue to see things like that down the road when an assistant coach, probably not in something that's as dramatic or unexpected as what happened with Bob Wager, but when a coach in the offseason leaves because he's got a chance to move up in his career, Rule's going to have a guy. He's going to have a guy ready. It's not going to be like, oh, I got to go back to square one and look for a whatever position coach to fill. He's going to know, and in a lot of cases that replacement is going to be right there in Lincoln on his staff in a support role.
Yeah, you're on a roll this morning. I'm listening and learning because I think 100%. Like, let's say like something goes wrong with Coach Sat, right? Like, I think he knows Coach Sat's temperament, right? Oh, if let's say for some ungodly reason I got to strip play calling duties from him, right? That's happened before to Coach Sat. Like, he knows that he can deal with it. Coach Rule can do something. He's got guys underneath Coach Sat. If something happens with Coach Raiola, Coach Satterfield can fall in and play or take O-line. If, Adam D. Michelle can help with tight. It's like almost everybody on that staff has one or two underlings that know what they're doing. I always tell people, like in the high school level, I like to coach my way into having options. That's why I like to have more than one or two guys ready to play, because I don't want to have to be married to poor performance or an injury. I think he coaches the exact same way with those preventative measures in place, Mitch.
Yeah, I mean, understudy, I think is a good way to describe it. And so the staff wasn't just thrown together.
Yeah.
When he started to put those pieces in place in December and January, I think that the spots that he filled, like you mentioned, D. Michelle and guys like Shevin Smith and Phil Simpson.
Good call on Shevin Smith.
Yeah, Phil Simpson, who's an expert in D-line play and has been a head coach at the high school level in Florida. All of those guys, I think he puts just as much thought into those positions, knowing what they might become in the future, as he does. He values them just as much as he does these coaches that we know so much about, the ones that we hear from that come and talk to the media each week and are making the big salaries. They're those are of course important choices for the head coach, but so are the understudies, the people who could eventually someday be in those roles.
Coach Rule's a planner.
Man.
That's what he does. He has everything taken care of, and he's 10 steps ahead. Mitch Sherman, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks so much. We will talk again in a couple of weeks.
All right. Good to talk to you guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Mitch.
Game day. We talking?
Yeah, can't wait.
Not too shabby, right? Not too shabby. Gosh,
it's be on a plane. We'll see. We'll figure that out later.
Yeah, we will.
I hope I'll have landed. Thanks,
See you,
Mitch.
It's Mitch Sherman, Nebraska and college football for The Athletic. We'll take a short break. More CNC next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning. We'll be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning. We'll be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning. We'll be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Can you hear me? There I am. Welcome back. Coffee and Cream. I want to take a moment and talk about some of our great sponsors here before we move any further. The first one, Dingman's. Dingman's Collision Center, your one-stop shop for all your car needs. 4 locations, 4 great locations, that is. I'm up for an oil change. I have an oil appointment scheduled over at Dingman's, and you should too, because they will take care of you over there. Dingman's not only takes care of you and your personal needs, but they also take care of the community. And that's something that they just do a fantastic job of. They have a ton of give back programs that you, the consumer, can choose to donate to with Dingman's money. It's the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah,
your name's attached to
it,
right?
Drop your little pebble in the jar after you settle up.
Epic for Girls, the Collective for Hope, Community Alliance. Those are the 3 Dingman's give back programs that they offer. Give them a shout. Take your car over there. They work on all makes and models. It's Dingman's Collisions Center. Dingman's. I need to get there.
So
I just need to go.
My thermostat light comes on now. I think it's
not good, man.
I think it's directly correlated to my oil change, though, because it's at the level, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So they're so sensitive with electronics. It's like, did I tell you the first time I went to go get an oil change, they told me that the vehicle was too new, like didn't trust.
I think so. Yep, I think so.
Yeah. So I went back to a reliable, but I'm due again. I'm just going there to have them look at my. It's not like they can fix rim rash or whatever you call it, but maybe
they can at least make you feel at peace.
Yeah. So I'm getting a lot of people telling me there's these guys over in Benson that are really good with rims. I'm still kind of mad at that lady, but my mom told me to chill, and it almost happened again a couple of days ago. I'm telling you, there's something about coming out of that Rockbrook area, heading on to 108th with traffic that is inviting to turn across the inside lane. Like, I know this is novel. Just turn into the first lane as opposed to skipping a lane to get to the outside lane. Like, I remember getting dinged for that with my driver's test, and I was in my 40s.
Remember, I told you I got dinged because I didn't look over my left shoulder going into a turn lane because a biker could have been coming up on my left side.
I do wonder how old she was, though. A part of me felt bad, but then I look at my rim and I'm like, no, I don't feel bad.
And you got rim rash from it?
Yeah.
I heard that story on Monday.
Can you just get some cream to fix that?
Fudge, I wish. I think it's expensive, to be honest.
Hey, are you, we talked
to me, it was like $300 a rim.
That's a lot.
No, that's about right. I
Is
think
it?
that's about
Yeah.
right. Because when I wanted to get black rims on my car, I think it was going to cost me close to $1,100 or $1,200
for the 4.
For the 4.
Yeah, so I think because it's not like just getting them dipped, like you have to.
Right, and you can do it yourself, but it would only last like 2 years. Don't laugh at me. I'm just telling you, you could.
Do you know who you're talking to? I can't.
Just saying.
My light cover is a little warped. I can't even fix that.
Ken goes, Dingman's, find me a girlfriend, someone who doesn't have whatever all through this.
I don't think we can do that out loud.
Yeah, I'm just why I said whatever.
Yep.
Hey, so we talked a little bit about, the NFL earlier on, and, there's just kind of been a lot of movement that I don't know if we've touched on all too much. For one, does it make you really happy seeing how Trey Palmer's being talked about in Tampa right now?
Yeah, I feel validated.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think he's really, really good. And I remember Coach Joseph.
He didn't deserve to be a 6th-round pick. I'll tell you that.
So I wish I knew more of the backstory on how that happened. Now, I get it. Wasn't always the cleanest pass catcher, right? Like sometimes he would be like Trey 2 times where it was like the double touch and stuff like that. But it seemed kind of like a steal. I thought 3rd, 4th round. But shoot, man, if you have a chance to be the number 3 or number 4 receiver.
Yeah, because Gage is out for a little while now.
Yeah, which is opportunity. And he's a good worker, right? And he understands passing concepts because one of the good things about coming over when he did with our former offensive coordinator is they had a lot of pro-style passing concepts under Coach Whipple. So I do – that's cool to see him flourish. How about – not to get on the Nebraska thing, but NFL in general. But I mean, Adrian Martinez getting like meaningful snaps. I know some people's minds have to explode over seeing that in Detroit
and
right?
being productive.
It's like, and all he does is work at his craft. Like he's one of those guys that's going to keep showing up. I mean, he's been through it all. right? Like
It's kind of a good thing, though, a good
yeah,
quality to have.
He's
When
emotionally.
you've experienced life,
Yeah, emotionally, he's pretty battle.
you'll be better off. And the best thing for Palmer here too, going back to Tampa, is that there's a new quarterback in town, and he doesn't have a favorite option.
Yeah.
So, like, because if you walk in and Tom Brady's in the room and he's used to throwing to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin,
Yeah, vets
and-
typically like vets unless you're a special rookie.
correct. But in this case, when there's a new quarterback, it's anybody's. The chemistry is up for grabs. Who is Trask, or is Mayfield down there now? Who's
Yeah,
is-
yeah.
okay? So who are these guys gelling with
He
at the
was
end of
on.
the day?
I watched him on the NFL Network the other day. Baker Mayfield. It's kind of weird. Like they, he started a new foundation with his wife, and so that was kind of the introductory piece. But then he talked about his time down in Tampa. He interviews different now. You can tell like there's been a little humility, some time in the league. He actually said a lot of the right things, and I liked. I mean, full disclosure, I think people that listen to me know, like I liked him coming out of college because I typically will always gravitate towards the person that's going to compete, right? Like day in, day out, keep showing up, and I felt like that was Mayfield, but that division is so odd. Like I looked at the Saints offense the other day against Kansas City.
Gosh, when is Kamara going to come back?
And it looked good, right? So he's only got the 3-game suspension, right?
Right.
It looked like, didn't they score? They got it 14-0, right?
And they added Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, for
Continue.
depth, right?
Yep.
So it's like, I mean, is it theirs for the taking? Carolina's got to figure out the quarterback spot.
Is Carolina really a 7-win, 8-win team?
Is that what they're at now?
Remember?
I know we talked about it, but
I
I
don't
couldn't
know.
remember.
I didn't double
I
check.
couldn't remember if we settled in. Was it 5.5 or 6.5? Because it certainly doesn't seem like a 6.5 win team,
right?
But it can't be that high, can it?
That we'll find out right here. Carolina.
That South is just messy. It's got to be New Orleans for the taking, doesn't it?
The over is -120. And it's 7.5
for Carolina.
For Carolina,
interesting.
8 wins. Vegas feels pretty confident in 8 wins for this Panthers team.
So that would be 8 and 9 in that division. Fudge.
But as you said, it's up for the taking.
I mean,
you can probably factor in a win or two when last year you couldn't.
The Saints probably have the best roster. The Falcons, if they hit on all cylinders, may be have the highest ceiling. I don't know. I mean, Tampa Bay's still good defensively. I think Devin White's kind of
Falcons 8.5
settled down.
-120. 8.5. Remember, because we talked about this, they're shooting high. Vegas is shooting really high because they don't know either.
I mean, if Atlanta they can run the ball really well. I mean, that's a good running football team. If the Falcons won that division, it wouldn't surprise me, but I still would I would go Saints then Falcons.
Does Tampa win 7 games? +120 for the over.
Their defense will have to keep them in it,
and they're old.
You know, their defense will have to keep them in it. I don't see them winning 7. I see the winner having 9 and last place having 6.
How much do you think Breece Hall's production this year is affected with Dalvin Cook in the room?
So I think he'll stay fresh. I think Breece will need this year anyway to kind of get back acclimated. And I don't want to say Dalvin Cook is a stopgap because he's better than a stopgap, but I think it allows the Jets some flexibility.
I think it allows you to bring him back slowly.
And they got a lot of toys. And remember, Breece Hall's still on the rookie deal for a bit. So you got some luxury there. But like we heard Salah say yesterday or the day before, you can have all the skill you want to. Big boys up front got to be the big boys. I really, really like him.
Is Javonte Williams bouncing back this year?
I don't know, but man, is he a hammer.
And he's 23.
Remember, he played for the guy in Carolina or in Wisconsin that people think don't know how to run the ball. I'm pretty sure Wisconsin will find a way to run the football.
All right, enough of that. Let's go and talk to Brian Edwards when we come back. MajorWager.com, Brian Edwards Sports.com. A little sports betting next on Coffee and Cream.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Now, Vegas insider, senior handicapper, and fan of the cold Budweiser bottles, Brian Edwards.
It's got to be touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Brian Edwards.
I don't really love it.
Brian Edwards.
Were they using the cream cheese to butter the bagel?
Brian Edwards.
I'm going with the cowgirl.
Here is Brian Edwards.
All right, that time, Brian Edwards, MajorWager.com, BrianEdwardsSports.com, and Brian Edwards at Vegas B. Edwards on Twitter. He joins us now via StreamYard. You can catch him on the Hurrdat Sports YouTube page, but we're also live on the radio, ESPN Radio here in Omaha for another 15 minutes. We join KFOR in Lincoln starting at 9. Brian, good morning. Gotcha. Nice. Yes.
Good morning, gentlemen.
What's up, buddy?
Mid-drink.
What's going on?
Long
Damon, you
time
got
no talk, man.
I know you got some vacation in before football season. That's the time to do it.
Yeah,
Was
I
it
got,
vacation
I
or
got some. I got
staycation?
some staycation coaching high school football.
Okay.
I wasn't too far away. I was right down the road, and unfortunately, I had to get up earlier to do that job than I do this one. So it wasn't a good trade-off. But I traded kids for Andrew, so that's a toss-up, right? I get my coworker, I get my confidant versus getting to pour into kids. I was like,
He's like, sometimes I prefer the kids.
It's about even. I'll take the word confidant. I like it. I'm happy to be back.
Oh,
glad to have you back, my man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that.
Big fight this weekend. You have Sugar Sean O'Malley, the absolute sniper, very accurate with his strikes, and you have Aljamain Sterling, who, what's funny, Aljamain predicted a second-round TKO, I think is what it was, and Sugar Sean, I heard on SportsCenter this morning, predicted a first-round submission. Any of those seem like a viable play this week?
No. I think Aljo's going to win inside the distance. Now, the price has gone down. He was north of minus 300. Now he's in the minus, 250, 265 range. There's a couple of minus 250s out there, BetMGM and Caesars. So I'm going to go with Aljo to win inside the distance for plus 110. I think he's way more likely to get a submission, but there is a chance of ground and pound. And I just think it's a horrible matchup for O'Malley. Now, can O'Malley catch him? Yes, he certainly could catch him. And I think O'Malley's breakdown of the fight in his media scrums have been perfect. I mean, yeah, he can catch him, but Aljo's most likely going to get a hold of him. And when he does, that's going to be a nightmare for O'Malley. So I like Aljo to win inside the distance. I'll start a parlay with him, and we can get to the others. I want to know what Damon thinks on that fight.
I like that, and I did see that the under 4.5 rounds is minus 210. So they definitely don't think that's going the distance, which leads me to believe your plus 110 may be spot on if you believe Sterling gets the dub.
Yeah, and they got different odds at different rounds. Under 3.5's around minus 140. Under 2.5's around plus 115. Under 1.5 plus 210.
So
I'm gonna
3.5 to 4.5 round range, right?
Yeah. So no, they're expecting a finish, and yeah, I get it. I mean, now Aljo's got let's see. 11 career finishes, but 23 career wins. So he does go to decision quite a bit, but I think he's at his peak right now. I'm thinking, second round submission, but I want to do inside the distance rather than go for the sub and a better payout just because there is the possibility of the KO. I want to have both bases covered.
Now,
he hasn't lost in 17.
Yeah. He's won 9 in a row.
Yeah, Sterling. Yeah.
Since Marias knocked him out, which was a crazy flying knee.
Yeah, he got hit with that knee. Nighty night. Yeah.
He got put 9-9 fast. Yeah.
We've seen that flying.
Yeah, we all get a little sleepy sometimes.
Sometimes we hit the deck, right?
I think we got a
B, you told me you have something that will, tickle my insides. I'm told that there's a parlay on hand.
Correct. So in the co-main, let's go with Wei Lee to defend her women's strawweight title. And now the third leg, you could go Ian Gary, but instead of doing that, I'm going to go Ian Gary to win by KO. Neil Magny just took this fight on like 8-9 days notice. Magny's getting up there at 36. Gary's 12-0, 5-0 in the UFC. 8 finishes, 4 in the first round. I think he is going to knock out Magny. So we're not going to put Gary in the parlay. You could, but it just doesn't add a whole lot of value. So the third leg of the parlay, along with Wei Lee and Aljamain Sterling, we're going to go with Cheeto Vera minus 200. So your prices should be Aljo minus 250, Whaley minus 300, Vera minus 200, and that should get a plus 180 return on that 3-leg parlay.
So, B, let me ask you something, because I think with Munoz and Vera, is there any value in taking a decision? Like, what's the number on that getting to a decision? Because I think that's going 3.
Yeah, Vera so Munoz has never ever been finished. Never once. And he's faced he's only 2-4 and then the no contest with O'Malley because he got poked. But the 4 losses, former champs, Cruz, Jose Aljo, current champ, and Frankie Edgar. And I remember the Frankie Edgar decision was, I thought it was pretty fortunate to go Frankie's way. So Munoz is durable, and Vera to win by decision. Here's how much they expect it to go to decision. Under 2.5 is plus 270.
Yeah, that thing's going the distance.
Yeah, Vera by decision is minus 105.
Oh, really? I thought it would be a little juicier than that. So maybe that it stopped at like 3 minutes, 240 in the third round, because that's interesting.
But looks like a couple of offshores have plus 104 and one of them's plus 110. But let's see, it's DraftKings and BetMGM have it at minus 105. So maybe you can get a small plus if you shop around.
Are you interested in seeing Weidman at all?
I mean,
I'm not. I think Tavares put it on him, but
look, going into that fight in Jacksonville, and I was there when he broke his leg, he was already washed.
Right?
He was already washed. Now he's broken his leg and's been off 2 years. So, yeah, I'm not against Tavares. I mean, kind of scared. Maybe Weidman can wrestle and out wrestle him, but he was already washed.
What do you like between Hubbard? Have you capped that yet?
I have not gotten to that one. Now, this is fascinating because I've tailed my boy Gamblu, who said on his
I'm a big fan. He knew my dad really, really well.
Yeah. Bout Biz Pod, and he had Blackshear to win by submission, and he gets the twister. First one since my guy Bryce Mitchell got one, and now he's taking this fight on like 3 days' notice. He's going to try to beat Chimaev for quickest turnaround with 2 Ws, which was 10 days over in Abu Dhabi during the pandemic. So this Blackshear kid's plus 185 to Bautista, but now, you used to wrestle and cut weight in high school, right, Damon? What is it like to cut weight 7 days after, doing it twice in 7 days? That's a physical ask, isn't it?
That's a recipe for disaster.
Right.
Yeah, it's just, your muscles don't respond when you starch them like that. So that one's, yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, getting inside the weight numbers.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I couldn't believe it when they matched. Garbrandt pulled out and they matched Blackshear up. I was like, oh my God, I just watched this guy like 3 nights ago.
that is weird though.
Yes.
Right? I mean, you just don't see that you just don't see that often. Is there a number yet on the Magny fight? Because I haven't seen it.
Yeah. So Gary is minus 500.
Oh,
that's why I said he won't even, he'll barely help the parlay. So that's why I'm, by KO prop.
DraftKings says it at 520.
Really?
Yeah.
So be full disclosure, Andrew won't brag, but when he was on vacation, he was showing me like these 6 and 7 leggers. They were ridiculous. A lot of them were baseball, like, hits, homers. And he missed the first 2 by 1 leg. Were they 7-teamers?
The first 2 were 3-teamers, but they were the home run bets. So
ridiculous. And he hit the last one.
That was a 7-leg parlay. The last one.
7 legs. So basically, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3 is 4 out of 6. Then he was 7 out of 7.
Yeah.
So he picked 11 out of 15 things in 3 parlays. I mean, come on.
B, that's if in total $650.
He's got some issues, but it's his creativity because it's only like it's not very much money, but his creativity is through the roof.
I think it was 15 to win 650.
Wow. Well, hey, Andrew, look, if you want to go crazy Saturday night, you could add Tavares to this parlay. Now, I haven't done the parlay calc. You can add Tavares. You can add Ian Gary. Now, Tavares is around minus 270.
Yep.
So that'll make it a 5-leg.
Look at you.
I'm already going.
Oh, B, man. Always good stuff, buddy.
We'll talk Navy and Notre Dame and Hawaii Vandy.
Yeah, we're rolling. Let's get it.
You know,
All right, gentlemen.
I need a same fight parlay. So let's do Sterling O'Malley. And we'll just kind of go.
What is wrong with you?
I'm feeling good today.
We'll be back. Coffee and cream.
All right. Oh, big money. This one's gonna win.
Listen, just stay tuned.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
All right, top of the hour on Coffee and Cream on Hurrdat Sports Radio. We are live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at the Bar and Grill. Damon Benning and Drew Rogers. Before we go any further, let's tell you about one of our fantastic sponsors. You like how I'm like adding in some pauses here to buy myself some time here?
I like that. It's very creative.
Yep. And now I just gave away my my trick to all the people out there. But you know who isn't a trick? That is the people over at Pratt Dental. Dr. Pratt is the only dentist in Nebraska that provides the service BioClear. Pratt Dental is located in North Platte. The BioClear method and modern smile design can correct many aesthetic dilemmas in a permanent and less invasive manner than traditional treatments such as crowns. The BioClear Matrix is an ultra-thin tooth-shaped form that allows permanent reconstruction of teeth with composite. When used together, they can maximize efficiency and aesthetic outcomes for a conservative and beautiful smile. Their slogan is creating healthy smiles. That's what they do over at Pratt Dental. Give them a call if you're in need of this treatment. You know, I was sitting back yesterday just kind of thinking more and more about conference realignment. And, you know, I came across some things that our AD over at Nebraska was saying in regards to what he kind of thinks will ultimately come from all this conference realignment talk. And there was an interesting model that was presented by, I think it was Stuart Mandel on The Athletic. Mm-hmm. But before I give that model, this is what Trev said. Trev goes, we're moving to a 35 to 40 top brands being a part of something. If you just look at football in isolation, eventually conferences will matter less in a sense. And really what he's saying there is football is just going to branch away completely, be its own thing. And then the other sports, the non-revenue sports, will stay and do something to a similar collegiate format. And I'm like, okay, interesting. Where is this going? Well, the model that was launched was like a Premier League model. And for those that don't know, like the soccer side of things, the EPL is interesting because not only is it the top soccer league in Europe, but it's also like cool because they do promotion,
you have to
relegation.
You have to carry your weight.
Right. And you know, I thought that was interesting because if we really want to go toward a Premier League model, say that you put them in 4 divisions, right? You go Division A, B, C, and D. And you can try to geographically place teams accordingly, but you're probably still going to have to deal with some travel. You may just not have to go east to west coast. But if you don't pull your weight and you do get relegated, and maybe that's an incentive for all the other schools that say aren't bringing in the big bucks to, you know, leapfrog into what we know now as college football, the top teams of college football. And I was curious to know what your thoughts were on that, because we haven't gotten into this just yet. But as we know, if you look at least TV revenue or at least just revenue of a team, if you're Ohio State, you make a lot more money than Northwestern throughout the year. Mm-hmm. So they would be a team there, and Northwestern would be on the outside looking in. But if Northwestern has a good football team at some point in time down the road, maybe they get booted up if a team, you know, falls out of that top 40. But if you really look at over the last 7 seasons, teams that drew 4 million viewers were like the Alabamas of the world in 50 games, Ohio State at 46, Michigan 40, Georgia 30, going all the way down to Penn State in the top 10 at 20. 20 games over the last 7 seasons drew 4 million. Not a lot of teams do that. So that's why Trev was like presenting this idea of, no, maybe certain college football teams just need to branch away.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because he said something that kind of gave me pause just from a reflection standpoint. He said, history has not been kind to conferences that aren't out ahead of expansion. Right? And I was just kind of thinking about that. And was that really a thing? And I was like, oh, I think that had a lot. I look at the Big 8, the Southwestern Conference, a lot of these conferences. And some of it wasn't that they wouldn't necessarily take on expansion. It was that they just didn't think broad enough in the grand scheme of things. So that I could definitely get on board with. But I think he's definitely on to something, because I don't know if that was us. But when we were talking about conference expansion the other day, and I was like, I think it's too lazy of a take to say, well, Team X doesn't add value. What are the revenue splits, whatever. Because I said you have to think long term. This was actually before Oregon and Washington, so it was some time ago. And I was just thinking kind of along those lines. This is before Trev said what he said. But what I was thinking was, at the end of the day, if you fast forward 4 or 5 years, I think you're going to want to be part of or affiliated with as many good teams as possible. I think ultimately that was the vision. It's not so much revenue splitting and the pie sharing. That's obviously part of it because it's money. But I think you want the best teams going forward. And so if I'm right and you're operating under that assumption, that model, EPL, has some merit to it because
it works.
Because you got to pee or get off. Yeah, you got to pee or get off the pot. Right? If in fact those two things go hand in hand, so that's interesting.
Yeah, because the EPL is cool because it's the EPL and then it's like the championship and then it's League One. And so like it just goes down in a tier system. And that's how you could just pre-rank college football teams from this point forward. Like you could have promotion and relegation all the way down the list of like, oh, this team goes up to here now, or this team goes up to here. But when you ultimately get to the college football playoff, what have we seen over the last years?
So
it's the same amount of teams that are like featured there.
So my only thing with that is, and I was super consistent, so like I apologize for saying this again. I didn't think they should have morphed into expansion until they got some conference procedural protocol in place.
And you did say that early on. Because you
I
haven't been a fan of going to 12. Is it a 12-team playoff?
Yeah, without conferences playing by the same rules. I still think that's a recipe because you didn't really solve the problem of teams 5 and 6 that didn't get in. Now you'll just be arguing about teams 8 through 12 or what,
right.
Or not 8 through 12, 12 through or 13 through 16 or whatever, because it's not uniform in terms of at least give me the same number of conference games played. Like just bare minimum. And I get it, right? I understand TV inventory. And I understand.
And now it may not matter, right? Because with the conferences being so big and widespread.
Now we'll see what happens in the next couple of years, right? You're right. The next television deals will be interesting because I'm not convinced. And 888-638-4876. I'm not so convinced that streaming will be as much of the way of the future as we think. I have a little reservation, but I mean, technology and is obviously going to play a role in that too, right? Like you have to be able to support the product from a infrastructure standpoint too, right?
Well, unless
do we want to get into loading and being on delay? Like they're going to have to up that game too, because the more people that start to stream, and I'm sure there's a significant amount of people that are streaming, but for streaming live sports events, there will have to be some give and take.
Yeah, turn off your ESPN notifications.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, right now, unless every team is streaming, it's not going to work because at least every Fire Stick, every Roku that you have is paired up to some type of TV deal. And yes,
technology is definitely going to have to catch up to the streaming world.
And you bring up a great point with delay because that's the world we live in now. If I'm watching the St. Louis Cardinals at home today, what my parents are watching at home on live TV is 30 seconds ahead of what I'm seeing.
Yeah, you're
So
sitting on your couch and your dad's like, man, Arenado with the double, and it's still.
Yeah, Arenado's
I mean,
a
he's
2-1 count.
He's still
yeah,
digging in,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. So, that's an excellent point. But if I look, big picture, I agree with you. I don't know if it can ever be done, because with how great TV revenue is for these schools, they're not going to want to go to a streaming option and change things up, because they're still going to get the money they want from the TV big dogs.
A good guinea pig will be, a playoff game on Peacock in the NFL, or, if Nebraska has a Peacock, broadcast, like what will be.
You know how many people, though, won't or try to illegally watch that game?
Oh, for sure.
Because they already spend hundreds of dollars on their cable provider.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to want to spend another $20-$30 to go and watch, this playoff game. It's kind of like what I do with UFC. I go to a restaurant that has the UFC fight so that I don't have to pay the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Like, it's just what you do. And that's just what we do as a society. We don't want to have to keep spending just because they're out there. Somebody else is going to have it. And so I'm going to go and resort to that resource.
I'm a little hesitant to think that without anything changing, that streaming could really, because look, man, Apple kind of let you know with whatever the tentative numbers were for the Pac-12 deal. I mean, you'd have to have a lot of folks subscribing to that service just to match half of what, moving conferences and not getting full payouts would accomplish. Like, you have to have 10% of the country streaming, 12% of the country just to get to those numbers for Apple. I just don't know about, I just don't think that model is sustainable, at least as of right now.
Right.
Right. So, maybe the networks come back into play. I don't know. But I don't.
At least over on the West Coast, I don't know if the networks even want to be involved.
If you're Nebraska, shoot, man, if you're Trev Alberts and you're acknowledging that Premier League model, you better hope that you're one of those programs that can put yourself in contention to be,
every year
to be elevated and not relegated.
Right. Because as of right now, if you look at the teams in here across the board and you try to just point to one team that hasn't been, pulling their own weight, it's Nebraska.
Yeah.
It's Nebraska and the teams of 28.
100%.
Let's change gears here, because I know we're going to run out of time if we save it for the short segment. So Shane, let's do the 6-pack now.
Before we do the 6-pack, by the way, wouldn't Apple or Peacock, wouldn't they want to promote their brand, their other entities, isn't that the reason why that they're probably going with the football like that, so they can broaden their scope with their other products that they have?
I guess it's all relative, but is Apple such a monster where they haven't had to get into the practical application of their subscribers because so many people have Apple products? I don't know enough. I'm just.
It's a good question, yeah.
Right, I'm just thinking out loud, right? Because it's like there are a couple of different entities, right? If in one hand all these people are spending money, and I'm looking at our bottom line, like, ooh, we're Apple, we're this. Look at our products, our our hardened software versus the actual streaming services. That's a different warehouse.
Yeah. Because I don't have access.
That's a different revenue stream. Because even though you have Apple products,
doesn't mean I have access to Apple TV.
Correct.
And I would have to pay for Apple TV if I wanted it.
So are you making so much here where you're willing to lose a little here? I mean, I think I may be way out of pocket here. It seems like that's the way that ESPN tried to go, and it eventually caught up with them with the app and their features and ESPN Plus. Like it seems like they eventually reached a point of of diminishing returns.
Right.
Would a company like Apple experience that? I think on some level it's all relative.
Unless you combine a bunch of things like ESPN did. So like when Disney bought out ESPN, now it's ESPN Plus, it's Disney Plus, and it's Hulu packaged together in one deal. So maybe Apple TV.
Do you have enough inventory to offer?
That's the question. And now Apple could go out and buy something. They could go out and buy Paramount Plus if they wanted to, or they could go out and buy Showtime and like pair something together so it intrigues you and more interest than one. Because that's how Disney really gets the bulk of their money. I don't get Disney Plus because I want to go home and watch Snow White. Right?
Yeah.
I have Disney Plus because, okay, well,
you want what comes with it.
Right. I have Hulu because I have shows that I like on Hulu. I have ESPN Plus, which I watch all the time. When hockey is on TV, when NHL is on TV, I'm always on ESPN Plus. And if I'm around my niece, boom, now I have Disney Plus for the kids.
Would you go the way of sports a la carte? Like if it's...
I would love to, but I don't know if that would ever be a thing because TVs would lose out on so many other things in regards to money. I would love to. I would love to just be able to pick my channels. I've talked about this forever. I don't know why a TV company doesn't, but it's because I don't know if you can really compete like that. I don't know if you can buy just one channel.
It'd be the whole volume versus.
I would much rather do a la carte though. I wish you could. The world today, we should be able to, but until one person does it, they're making a ton of money altogether.
But I mean, you'd have, excuse me. And I know we're getting ready to start the six-pack here, Shane, but you'd have to think that would a la carte in terms of the television packages be like a la carte at a restaurant where it's more expensive if you don't get it included in the meal.
That's true. It's very true. If I want the extra side of mac and cheese or whatever.
How good is the mac and cheese? Yeah, I don't know. I have some reservations about what the streaming services will be able to do just because we have to be able to support it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about like the technical side of it. Because the product was going to suffer. It has to. I just don't know like if they can, like the volume would have to be overwhelming. Like how am I not going to be loading? Like what if your Wi-Fi is down?
Yep. It's another great point.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can you imagine? Because this is what happens all the time when you see videos. There's 30 seconds left in the game. Your team's driving. No, not even. Let's just say there's 4 seconds left in the game,
and
you're lining up for a field goal, right? And all of a sudden, you get the buffer ring, right? And then 5 seconds later, you're trying to refresh the stream, and you see your kicker celebrating.
Yeah, my buddy Omaha Ryan, he said, I just dubbed him Omaha Ryan. He's really just RP. He's Caleb's agent. He says, I'm pissed that the NFL ticket is streaming now. The latency is a huge problem, and it isn't going to get any better. Like
I get fantasy football updates before touchdowns are actually scored because I have Sunday ticket.
Huh. Got to be something out there, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, first we thought it was like fiber optics.
But that's the only way I can like watch those games sometimes, right? It's the same thing with
100%
with MLB.
What will the pushback be when Nebraska plays on Peacock? It's Maryland, right? It's Peacock. Like, can you imagine?
Well, would you rather spend, $50 to get, whatever for that day? Or are you just taking the family on a road trip and you're spending a little extra to go watch them in person?
I don't know, but that's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that will be and Nebraska gets huge viewership numbers.
And that's why they're, embodied with the rest.
It's going to be the Peacock flex, and people are going to lose their minds.
Mm-hmm. Well, people already lose their minds over the Apple TV baseball broadcasts.
Oh, I know
the broadcasters are horrible, and it's just poor baseball. Like they just don't, the camera angles, the way they switch, it's not the same like you see it with your regular network provider.
It's gonna be interesting.
Well, it's different people doing it. I mean, that is what it is.
Yeah, that's to land the plane. I guess that's why I'm a smidge leery over the
Devin Leary.
Yeah. Yes. Devin Leary.
Dennis Leary?
Dennis, too. What's he doing now? Is he still alive?
I don't know. Maybe.
Terrible at that game. That's what we should do. We should just
Dead or alive.
Dead or alive.
All right. Well, new one.
Trent would be wearing me out.
I don't know if Trent's all about dead or alive people, but we could see.
I don't know if we can make the six-pack.
We definitely can, but we could maybe start it.
Shano?
I will try to do a better job reading so it doesn't take forever.
All right, Jay.
Where's Sasha at Pinnacle Bank when we need
I
her?
just won't drink as much, even though what I do drink.
Cam?
I will
Calling
enjoy
in
it.
Cam?
Yeah, just keep the belching to a minimum.
Time now for the Sports Six Pack, presented by Zipline Brewing Company, makers of Dear Old Nebraska Brew, the official beer of Nebraska alumni.
And the beer we are pushing, can opener tropical ale, the guava hints, the citrus hints in this brew. It's the perfect summer beer. We're on the tail end. You can still enjoy a can opener tropical ale. Find it at any of your favorite stores or any Zipline location. Shaner?
Question number 1.
It's always a good time, isn't it? Noon somewhere.
Ken on YouTube. How much did pressure as the chosen one affect Taylor Martinez and injuries? He was still just a freshman / young player, had COVID year.
Was he the chosen one? Was he considered the chosen one, or was Scott Frost really the chosen one?
No, he wilted under the pressure. See, I don't think Taylor Martinez had that pressure. Right? Did you say Taylor and not Adrian?
I said Taylor. That's what it says.
Taylor. I don't, because remember, Taylor won the job in the offseason. He kind of came from off the radar. He was a guy that came in to play free safety. He was in camp, and all of a sudden they put him on the other side of the ball, and he made like 1,000 plays. And Coach Planey was like, "Oh man, I think we may have something here." He kind of came from off the grid, but maybe to repeat the first year was where the pressure.
Now, was the question meant though for Adrian, because that would be the COVID year?
Yeah.
So should it be Adrian? Was it meant to be Adrian and not Taylor?
Could be, because that would make sense. That's why I just wanted clarity.
Right.
If it is
Because I was
Adrian,
wondering why you asked the question. Then I'm like, wait a second.
if it is in fact Adrian with the COVID year, I think the pressure for a repeat performance definitely mounted. And you're talking about a guy that he'd missed the previous 2 years of playing football and had never won a ton. Right? I definitely think he was on Heisman lists.
And that was the thing. Like, the hype was building for him, but I don't know if the team was ready for that hype just yet.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was an Adrian problem. I think it was just an overall team problem.
That was so QB-centric. A combination of both. But, yeah, the pressure didn't help.
Go ahead, Shane. Fit one more.
Question number 2.
Steven in Omaha. I'm from Minneapolis, and Kirk Cousins absolutely doesn't suck. You don't even have one good reason to back that up. Get off my lawn.
All right, Steven. Wait, okay. So what, okay, you want one reason?
He's only getting me 15 points in fantasy.
What is Kirk Cousins' record in primetime? Like 12 and 20?
Here we go.
Would you say that record's good, DB? I'm just asking, just man to man.
For a friend?
Is that record good?
No, the record's not great.
Yeah, would you say it sucks?
Yeah. I mean,
Kirk Cousins sucks. There you go, Steven.
Oh, Lord.
Get off my lawn.
Oh, where's Mr. Kowalski when I need him?
All right, I appreciate the statement, though. It wasn't really a question. It was just a statement.
Is that a plant? Are you Josh Fleeks?
I just had to shave off a pound before I came back the next day.
Wow.
All right, so we got 4 more questions to get to. We'll get to those when we come back. Don't worry, your questions await. As long as they're all questions. We still have Michael Bruntz to close out the show at 9:45, so stick around for him.
He's got bragging rights.
Definitely does. I definitely don't. 8-0. 8-0. You know how many runs I scored in the first inning? 4. You know how long I lasted? 1 out. We'll be back with the rest of the 6-pack.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning. We'll be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
The 0-1 pitch. That swung on a drive to right field. Going back as Walker just looks up, and it is gone. A home run for Soderstrom, and the A's lead 8-0.
Rogers and Benning. We'll be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning. We'll be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
All right, we're back. 3, 4, 5, and 6 awaiting of the sports six-pack because Shane's just nursing beer 2 over there. So did you finish yet, Shane? Can we move on?
I don't know. I got a lot of cans sitting over here.
A lot? You've only gone through 2. I guess 2
I've been stacking them up for weeks.
Yeah, weeks would be about right. You'd be at about 2.
No, I'd be at about 6.
I'd take it. 1 out of every 6 and couple days.
That's about right. You know, that's 2 beers every. It's a beer.
Yeah, how about a beer?
Something here. I'm just gonna have one right now.
Question number 3.
If you could give a surprise team to make the college football playoff this season, who would it be and why?
out of the 4? Or is it? Yeah, because we're still in the 4 format, right?
Conferences? Yeah.
I'm just I meant just like only 4 teams make the playoff.
I would. Yeah. I'm going with Texas Tech, and it's because of their schedule.
That is a surprise team.
Consistent with that. Texas Tech, very user-friendly schedule.
Is it crazy to say Notre Dame? Could they get back?
They're outside the top 10. They would be considered a dark horse. I mean, imagine if Hartman is good.
Right? What I'm saying.
They got a lot of other pieces. Elite
does
defensively.
It shock you that Arkansas is out of the top 25 returning KJ Jefferson?
So he's been so hit or miss, though. Like, how would you describe – that's a great question. How would you describe – not mine, but yours. How would you describe KJ Jefferson as a quarterback?
Just a familiar name, right?
I mean,
we're in a world where college football quarterbacks just aren't familiar names right now. So
do you remember watching them against Kansas
Oh,
last
they
year?
were not good. I remember him. Was it a fumble on like the 3?
It's like he's kind of an enigma.
He is. I can vibe with that.
But remember, we were in love with Arkansas and that coaching staff for a while.
Mm-hmm. Texas Tech is unranked too, right?
Yeah.
They're like, I think they
30th?
should be like 26th.
Is that what it is?
I think so.
Yeah, that would be that's a true dark horse.
That is a real
Katy
dark
Perry,
horse.
as I mentioned in the meeting yesterday, which we will not play.
Did
you like that?
Yeah, I did. I couldn't believe you found that in your brain.
Well, and if it was just us, like me, you, and Shane, it comes more. I'm like, God, I just did this in front of everybody.
Well, see, I didn't even react because you do it all the time.
I do it all the time, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
to everybody else, it was probably like, did he just do that? Like, he knows
Bad.
Katy Perry?
It's bad.
Wait, his daughter's only 5. Does she know who Katy Perry is?
How about her wanting me to play Pink in the car last night?
What song?
So I didn't know, and she said something about I think it's All I Know So Far, but the way she described it was, the one about you're thinking in your head. So I remember Googling whatever she told me, Pink lyrics, and that's what came up.
Smart girl.
Yeah, she knows the words. It's kind of scary.
Google it.
Yeah, exactly. GIB.
Utah could be really fun to watch this year, too, if Cam Rising is healthy.
Yeah, when do they get him? Week 2, week 1, week 3?
Shoulder shrug. I don't know.
He can't even run and cut yet. Or he's not cleared to.
Mm-hmm. All right, Shane.
Googling is overrated, but you know what's not overrated?
Googling. How
Drinking.
many syllables?
Question number 4.
Medical wonder, isn't he?
Brad in Omaha, when do you think all this conference realignment will end?
2 years.
Oh, you're actually giving it a date. 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't feel confident giving a date just yet. I don't know.
Dare to be wrong, DB. Yeah, probably right about that.
I don't know. Conference realignment is going to be something until it's not something, right? Once they finally find a good layout of what they like, that's when it will end. But right now, it's just a big idea.
I'm guessing. Just spitballing here.
You're going to have to think, though, that, okay, you have 4 Pac-12 teams that still need to move. The Mountain West doesn't open up till next year.
Isn't the AAC all changing ahead the remainder of the AAC?
Right. And then the ACC, I still think Florida State could be leaving eventually.
Dude, they're wild.
Right?
Yeah. I'm going to ask my guy. I'm going to ask Ryan where he wants him to go. He's a huge Florida State fan.
But
Dr.
maybe you
Lucas,
don't go anywhere.
our soup, huge FSU.
Maybe you don't go anywhere if you do something like we talked about with the College Football Federation, as Stuart Mandel put it.
Yeah.
With the EPL look. Maybe you don't go anywhere.
So that was a good point. Was that on our comment section?
It was Twitter by Daniel.
Yeah, he made
excellent point.
I hate to admit he
Ring
made a
his
good
bell.
point, but he made a good point.
So the point that Amazing Daniel made was the idea of relegation and promotion is fun, but I'd lose interest if I don't have a team to root for in the top league. Makes sense, unless the lower leagues had a path to the playoffs. Plus, promotion is for next year's team, which doesn't make sense in college. And that's the point that everybody needs to remember with how the EPL works. You win the championship, your team carries over up top to the top league now. It's not like you just get lost. So maybe the relegation point can't even be done because of that. Because if you have a good team, if you have a good Cincinnati team, I'll remember Luke Fickell's teams here. If you have a good team that makes the college football playoff, well, Cincinnati wasn't a college football playoff team the next year. Everybody left. Everybody dispersed.
Good point. TCU would be actually a bad example because I think
they could be
TCU
okay
could
this
be
year.
Okay.
Question number 5.
James wants to know, I'm just returning from vacay, but did you guys talk about all the shirts the Northwestern coaching staff was wearing last week?
Yeah, that was.
I didn't talk about it, but
The best in essence rallying for Fitz.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
I don't know, man.
Kind of a weird flex by the coaches that they could do that.
I feel like I'm living in a glass house. So.
It was Cats Against the World with Fitz's number 51 on it. Cats Against the World.
It's okay. I mean, I'm not going to knock the hustle. They're going to rally for their guy. I support it.
I kind of like the Cats Against the World, but maybe just leave the number off.
We have given up on them,
right?
Yeah,
Like-
but that's probably the right answer. The Fitz,
Because you can have your own vision for what it stands for, while other people can assume what it stands for. But if you put his number on there, people can connect the dots. It just does. It seems like a weird flex at this point in time because you guys survived this. Because you'll still play football, you're just going to act.
I got to
out.
keep it 100, don't I, Shane? I mean, we were mad at Armin Katayan from CBS in the 90s. So we wore the See Through the BS T-shirts, and we interviewed Armin Katayan a couple years ago, and I told
That
Shane
was great.
it turned out to be good. He apologized.
Yeah.
But
That
I felt some type of way going into that interview. So, and we had T-shirts, right? See Through the BS, because it was of the portrayal of how they talked about our program in '94. So I'm all for the, what do they call it now? Sloganeering.
Yeah, I love slogan.
But I'm kind of with you on maybe leave off the number.
Be
It's
like deceptive, right?
It's implied what we like, who you're rallying for. So I don't know, but I don't have I'm not mad at them for it, right? Because I've been in.
It's just kind of weird.
I've been in that boat.
Question number 6.
Wow.
Sorry. Would you rather be forced to stay at a bowling alley until you bowl a total score of 3,000 with one other person or of similar skill level to you, or do you one chip challenge?
Okay, so would you rather be at a bowling alley? You have to get to 3,000, but you're partnered up with somebody with the same skill level as you.
Well,
and you can't leave until you get to 3,000 total.
So how long would it take me? I'm a career 107 bowler.
Oh man! So if I'm
you bowl 3 games, right? Do we have to total? We have to total 3,000?
No. So you just bowl 10 frames, right? And you get to 107, right?
Yeah.
So that's one game, right? And I bowl 107 too because I'm the same level. So
214.
We'll just say 2 to make it easy. Say it's just 100. That's a lot of games.
60, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right?
I don't,
math, guys.
Jamie is so disappointed in me right now.
15 times 200 is what?
I said 60. That would be 12,000. Come on, DB. We got to get to 3,000.
Yeah. Divide it by 200.
Yeah, it's 15 games.
Yeah, 15.
That's a day.
Yeah, because one I would say, so I went bowling with Ashley's work group.
Yeah.
And
bless your soul. Gosh.
But it was like the little bowling that there's a bar in Blackstone. I can't remember what it's called.
Little bowling.
It is. It's like little bowling.
Shane.
Yeah, Shane.
Never mind.
Nah, I just do the one chip challenge.
Oh, okay. I don't
Thank
know
you.
if I'd want to do the one chip challenge. I'd rather spend a day at the bowling alley. But remember, you have to put up the funds to do it too. And bowling isn't cheap. Probably spending
my competitiveness
$200
would probably say the one chip challenge. See, how long am I going to be miserable for? 30 minutes? An hour?
I don't know how long that lasts.
Can I drink milk?
Right after? Don't you have to wait 5 minutes?
I don't know. Give me the challenge, probably.
All right, Michael Bruntz up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
The 0-1 pitch. That swung on a drive to right field. Going back as Walker just looks up, and it is gone. A home run for Soderstrom, and the A's lead 8-0.
I mean, you had to throw the 9th inning clip in there out of all clips. Like, we could have kept the score out of there, Shane.
That's tough.
Are you kidding?
He's a big fan of our next game.
Like, how about we just do, a single to center after the first strikeout? Like, that'd be sweet.
I'm sorry. I played the wrong clip. This is the one I meant to play.
To the 0-1 pitch. That swung on a drive to right field. Going back as Walker just looks up, and it is gone. A home run for Soderstrom, and the A's lead 8-0.
Oh, wait, I'd rather hear the Japanese broadcast call. Can you play that one for me? Wow.
We got to stop doing that. Making fun of people.
Oh man, Michael Bruntz here with us now. Bruntz, you have to be feeling good.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't an excuse me Yankee Stadium home run either. He got all of that one.
Yeah, well, thanks for reminding me. Hey, Bruntsy, question for you. Baseball question before we go any further.
He
DD
just
and I were
stays
talking about
on his snark game, doesn't
he?
he?
He does, yep. And in fact, he adds in a nice analogy that I can understand because I'm dumb.
Don't you want to see? Wouldn't you like to see how he and Shave Bruntsy, how do you and Shave coexist in the same room? Do either of you ever give just a regular answer?
There's a lot of side talk.
Yeah,
That's probably how I would describe it.
Just answer the question. I'd rather make you feel this big.
The older we get, the closer we get to Statler and Waldorf. I mean, when we get together, that's pretty much where we're at now. Just complaining.
Hey, Bruntsy, so I asked Damon, and there's only about maybe 6 or 7 starts left for the man. But can Adam Wainwright get 2 more career wins to get to 200 with only 6 or 7 starts left?
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
that didn't sound very confident.
I mean, he's been so bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's up to him.
Well, no. So hear me out. I think it is because if you watched the game against the Royals, he went 1 inning and gave up 8 earned runs.
Yeah, that's not going to get it done. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to know. Like when you get to September, you kind of wonder, a team like the Cardinals, are they going to keep playing or are they going to fold it up? I mean, at least, Oakland's terrible and they're going to get worse, but at least they got young guys that still kind of have that bounce in their step and are kind of happy to be there. But I don't know. I guess maybe you catch a team that's folded it up and thinking about playing golf in the off season. Maybe that works to his favor.
It's hard to believe that Wainwright is chasing 200, and we asked the question, and guys like Jamie Moyer, who was old as Methuselah, has 269. It is.
Yeah.
Baseball has gotten much tougher.
Well, yeah, and it's that 300 thing. I mean,
that's gonzo.
Who's even closer right now? Verlander, maybe?
Probably Verlander, Scherzer.
Right.
The Greinke's old heads.
Probably up there.
Old heads.
Yeah, I mean, there's just not. I don't know. Somebody the harder thrown young guys. I mean, you just can't. You can't project longevity like that anymore. I guess. I don't know, and I don't know if that maybe something changes in baseball where it comes back around, but it's. I think that's going to be kind of more of the unique.
Yeah, Verlander's only at 252.
Yeah, and Greinke, I'm looking right now, he's only at 224.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's going to be a rarity. I mean, I think 3,000 is going to be a little bit that way as well, just with, the way that the game has been so much more now about, strikeouts and hitting home runs. But yeah, the 300 thing, I mean, that's going to be more of a unicorn, I think, with each passing year.
Holy, I'm just scrolling through this list and I'm looking at active players. After Wainwright, who do you think is the next one on this list?
I don't know.
Johnny Cueto. Johnny Cueto at 143.
He just started the other day against his old team, against the Reds.
Wait, is Cole Hamels still active?
No, he just retired.
Okay, thank goodness. So, yeah, it's
literally just retired 2 weeks ago. Hey, Bruntsy, when you're listening to the tenor of Coach Rule, do you get more patient with how he's kind of a brick by brick guy, or less patient because you want to have him skip through this first part to see what the goodness is at the end?
Well, first off, how long would I have to stay on the phone with you guys until you would have picked Johnny Cueto?
Isn't that something?
Yeah. I don't think I would have come up with Johnny Cueto if I was sitting on here for 3 days.
Yeah, he's 100%.
Yeah,
right.
I'm in agreement too.
But your question. I don't know. I mean, I guess the brick by brick stuff kind of fits with fall camp, right? We're week 3 now. I think we've pretty much talked to everybody that you would expect to talk to. I guess, when he's saying it, the players are saying it. To me, it's maybe a sign that whatever they're preaching, it is sinking in. And the 1% better. I mean, doesn't matter. We'll see. I mean, I'm eager to get the season started to see what this is all going to look like. But no, I mean, I think they've got their messages that they're hammering home, and I guess it's been a while since I can think of a slogan or kind of that outlook on things.
Slogan. Sloganeering again, huh, Bruntsy?
I did not say sloganeering. I said slogan. Sloganeering is the verb. But I think to me it's buy-in, and I think that's you need that now. And if it takes every guy talking about the 1% thing during post-practice interviews, it is what it is, I guess.
So, Bruntsy, stay with that buy-in take because, as building chemistry is key, especially on the offensive side of the ball between pass catcher and quarterback. And we heard Fedoni talk a little bit about that. We've heard Sims talk a little bit about that over recent days. How many respect points and buy-in points do you think Sims earned this offseason with the offense by just the way he went about his business? So, like, for example, the studying up on the roster so he can memorize everybody's names and things like that.
Yeah, it helps. I mean, I think for him, do we undersell how difficult it is to come in as a transfer quarterback and kind of get into the walls of things?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
I think it's tough, and we've gotten a couple different examples of that through the years. I think that from my read of it, I think Jeff Sims has kind of gotten in with the roster a little bit better than maybe what Casey Thompson had done at this point. And I don't know if that's part of that is just, you're coming in with the new coaching staff, so it's all new. But I think Jeff Sims is a pretty low key guy. I mean, even when he talks to the media, I think he's thoughtful, but not necessarily verbose. And I think he's a likable guy. I mean, and he ran everything this summer. I think in some ways, the transfers out of the quarterback room that they had in the spring probably helped him being able to, be accepted and be more of a leader because, if not him, then who? Because there were, it very easily cleared out the question of who the starter was going to be. And I think it provided everybody somebody that they could rally around without having to wait at the fall camp and going through a quarterback competition and all that stuff. We'll see what it counts for when games get going. But, my sense is that Jeff Sims is very much in control of things. And I think he's the kind of guy that his teammates are going to follow.
Bruntz, you get a good feel, and a lot of people talking about this team behind the scenes. Do you quietly have kind of an off the field MVP if Nebraska is going to be successful in year one? You got Elsa, Sean Padden, Corey Campbell. Campbell may be too easy.
What about the nutritionist?
Yeah, she's legit.
Yeah, I mean, when they hired the nutritionist, that was the first time I've ever had somebody that covers another program reach out to me and say, that's a big hire.
She's everywhere, and she has autonomy.
Yeah, no, she's around. She's definitely around. You see her when, after practice a lot. She's obviously driving that bus with the way things are done there. I don't know. I mean, I think, Campbell probably deserves some off-season credit. They went about things a lot differently this off-season in terms of training and how they did things. And, he has to kind of be the enforcer and the guy that, gets everybody to buy into that vision. So I'd probably go there. I don't know. It's just I think when you're over there, you get a sense of kind of how big of an operation it is because they've got a lot of people. And, I think that, in order to kind of do things the way that Matt Rule wants them done and with the kind of detail that he wants them done, you need a lot of people. And I think that's been the thing that stood out over the last, couple of months is it's a big operation, and we'll see what they're able to do.
Yeah, and if Coggins and Campbell, nutritionist, strength and conditioning, they probably got to work hand in hand too, because that would just fit right along Bruns with everybody being on the same page kind of thing.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it's there's a vision, and they got to execute it and do it together.
This went way too fast.
Because we were thinking around about baseball.
I know. That's my fault.
Johnny Cueto, man.
Bruntz, appreciate the time, man. We'll talk next week.
Thanks, Bruntz.
It's Michael Bruntz, senior writer for Husker 24/7. That'll do it for Coffee and Cream this morning. We'll be back tomorrow.